Like it or not, there are standard procedures everyone must follow in a divorce, such as disclosing all your financial documents to the other side. Now, this step is not an option. It is mandatory. So the lawyers, the mediator, if you're using one, and everyone's financial team can find a fair outcome for both sides. Now, you've heard of karma. Well, our next guest is going to explain why not playing by the rules will come back and haunt you. And I'm pleased to welcome back Donna LaScala, a registered financial consultant, a certified divorce financial analyst, and founder of Comprehensive Divorce Solutions. Donna is also the co-president of the Association of Divorce Financial Planners and a member of the Association of Collaborative Professionals. Donna, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Always a pleasure to have you. Now, why must a person disclose all their financial information during the divorce process? And why is this step non-negotiable when you are going through the divorce process?
So, great question to start off with, because there's a lot of misconceptions about financial information. And depending upon what state you're in, it can be an absolute requirement in order for the divorce to go through. So in New York, for example, it is in fact a requirement that you have full financial disclosure. The importance of this is to ensure that equitable distribution is being achieved. And when you submit a divorce packet to the court, no matter what method you've used, so if you've gone through litigation, mediation, or collaborative, a section of this document states that full financial disclosure has in fact been achieved, and if not, why not? So if it hasn't been achieved, then there's an additional paragraph that appears in the document that says that if anything of a financial nature comes to light within a certain amount of time after the divorce has been filed, then the injured party has the right to go back to court. So, for example, if someone is trying to hide income from their business, for example, and it then comes to light after the fact, the injured spouse can bring them back to court.
Yeah, and that's not a good thing, because not only going back to court is extremely time-consuming, it is also extremely expensive.
Yes,
and
it is.
And you may get punished by the court, and that's not fun either. Can you please describe what types of records you need to submit to the other side, or to the lawyer, or to the mediator, and how current or even how far back do they have to go?
Okay, so I usually start with the basics. So let's start there. Bank statements. I usually ask for any and all current bank statements and at least 3 months worth of those statements so that I can see a pattern of cash flow. What's coming in, what's going out, to establish what the expenses are and the pattern of income that's coming in for the couple. If there's a business, it's required for the business as well. So any business bank accounts are required. Additional types of documents include, but are not limited to, the following: tax returns, both personal and business, investment account statements, retirement account statements, income statements like W-2s, 1099s, K-1s. It's also very important that the cutoff date is established. That's usually the date that either the action has been filed, if you're in a traditional litigation case. In mediation or collaborative, it's usually the date that the mediation or collaboration has begun. So this date and the date of marriage are very, very important to establish what's marital property versus what's separate property. Also, dates of hire for employment are very important for retirement asset evaluation. So when you've got all that information, then you want to see all the patterns. You also may then want to go back 1 to 3 years. In very complex cases, you can go back even further. Or if I suspect that there's something untoward going on, I want more information, again, so I can establish a pattern. And it's also impending what's going to be determined. So depending upon what you're trying to establish, find out, discover, uncover, you might want to go back further. It's usually not more than 5 years, though.
If one side, we'll call them person number one, is not being forthcoming by sharing their records, because as we said before we started this segment, there are those who go into this kicking and screaming, can the other side, and we'll call them person number two, subpoena the documents?
Excellent question. And yes, person number two has the right to subpoena documents, but only when the case is in court in traditional litigation. Now, the reason for this is because most of the mediation process and the collaborative process happen before the divorce goes through the court system. A subpoena or any other type of motion is a court-ordered action, and so it cannot occur if you're in mediation or collaborative. Now, this doesn't mean that full disclosure isn't required during mediation and collaborative, because it's important and it's required and necessary in order for the process to be complete. So the professionals involved in mediation and collaborative make it very clear to the parties from the beginning, and they hope that all parties involved will cooperate and act in the right spirit of the process. Now, a common misconception that most people have is that if you're not in litigation, you don't have to participate in full disclosure, and nothing could be further from the truth. So let's do the flip side, though. Another misconception is that a subpoena will always be obeyed. Now, we know that many court orders are ignored or sidestepped or worked around. Just because someone's been ordered to do something doesn't mean that they're going to cooperate fully. But we know that no matter what process you're in, fully cooperating is going to come back to bite you in the end.
Yeah, and what are some examples of, based on your experience and what you've seen in dealing with these cases, are some examples of some punishments people have been handed down?
Well, I think the worst one is if the case is in court or goes back to court, whatever process has begun, and the person one is hiding information from person two about their business, the value of that business, or the income from that business. Going back to court, having a case reopened, or having a judge see that there's not cooperation from the other side, the worst thing that could happen is a court-ordered, full-blown forensic evaluation. The reason why is because it takes a long time and it's exorbitantly expensive. With a complex business, it could take months and months to have a full-blown forensic accounting done of that business. And it can also open up a can of worms that someone who's been hiding information does not want to have opened. So that, to me, is one of the biggest punishments, even though it's not necessarily considered a punishment, but it's definitely not something you want to have happen.
Yeah, now you said that this can be a time-consuming process. So again, based on your experience in dealing with these matters, how much can it set a case back in terms of time?
Well, depending upon what the issue is, it could be months, it could be a year, but I've also seen people themselves stop a process because they don't want to give the information that's required. I just was in a meeting today with a bunch of mediation colleagues, and one of the attorneys who is a mediator said she's had a case stall for over a year because the party that was withholding information did not want to come forward with that information. So there's many ways that it can stall. I've heard horror stories about divorces going on for 5-10 years because for one reason or another, the information that's required or the agreement that's required or the compromise that's required is not being achieved because one or more parties is not playing by the rules or does not want to participate fully in what is happening.
So we said before that we called them person number one is the one stalling the process. What would be your advice for person number two in these situations? So I have conversations with both person number one and person number two about this. But so let's start with person number two. If they are in mediation or collaborative and the other person is just not participating,
it may very well be that they have to stop that process and get a lawyer involved to file a motion of some sort, take it to court, because that may be their only recourse. There are other ways that we can try to work around or figure out if they have information, person two has some information, we can sort of try to put the puzzle pieces together. I had this happen where I called in a forensic accountant that was not initially in the case on a collaborative matter. And I asked that forensic CPA to try to glean some information from the very few business reports that we were getting, what a pattern of behavior could be in that business. Accounts payable, receivable, cash flow, all those kinds of things. And she was able to do so. And then we sort of connected the dots and came back to person number one and said, okay, we've done our due diligence here, and this is what we found. Are you going to refute that this is actually the value of your business, the progress of your business, the process of your business, and this is what your spouse is required to receive? Now, with person number one, when something like that is kind of about to happen, I might have the following conversation with them. Look, I understand that for one reason or another, you're really trying to hold back information. And usually they'll give me reasons like, well, my spouse was never involved in the business, so it's none of their business and they don't need to know. Or they'll say to me, well, my business partner is not on board with this and does not want to disclose the information, so I'm not allowed to without them. Or they'll say, well, my business partner doesn't even know that I'm getting divorced, so I really don't want to tip them off because it could cause problems for me in my business. They'll give me all sorts of different excuses. But basically what I will say to them is, look, I'm sorry, but this is really raising a huge, big, shiny red flag for me. And because there is this big red flag, and you're asking your spouse to waive their right to something that they don't even know what the value is, let me explain to you what could happen. You're going to sign an agreement that's vague. A couple of years from now, your spouse is going to say, you know what, I was really screwed here. And they're going to go back and they're going to hire an attorney, and the case is going to be reopened, and you're going to wind up in court. And when a judge sees a vague agreement, they're immediately going to do what I told you was going to happen anyway, which is a full-blown forensic accounting. And all those Pandora's boxes that you didn't want to open and all those big shiny red flags, it's all going to come out. So participate now, save yourself time and money, or have what I just explained to you happen later on down the road. It's not going to be pretty. So more often than not, they'll back down and they'll go, okay, I'll participate. And I try to make it as easy for them as possible. I don't want to punish them, but I have to say, look, I need to do my job, and this cannot go forward unless we have all the information and everyone is making an informed decision, because that's really what it's all about. You want these people to be making informed decisions that they can move forward with their lives, and everyone is going to come out okay in the end.
Great information, great advice. Donna, for people who want to learn more, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way is to give me a call at 516-234-7522. That's my office number, and I will answer your call.
Donna LaScala, President of Comprehensive Divorce Solutions, thank you so much for joining us. Don't go anywhere because we will be right back after this commercial break, so stick around.
At Comprehensive Divorce Solutions, Donna LaScala provides the tools for people to deal with assets, debts, equitable distribution, and retirement in divorce negotiations. We hold your hand during and after the divorce process, providing a roadmap of what happens next and into the future. Divorce is difficult whether you're initiating it or not. It's fraught with emotion. When you deal with emotions, you are not dealing with logic, making it more difficult to decide what to do with your money. Hiring a professional to assist you in walking down the money path is crucial to avoiding potentially costly mistakes. Donna's goal is to make sure that each individual knows how they are going to be able to survive and thrive during and after divorce. As a CDFA-trained mediator and collaborative financial neutral, Donna helps people get unstuck and move forward towards their post-divorce future. Call Donna LaScala at 516-218-6919, 516-218-6919.